And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Jacob H., who writes, "Hey, John. So, a video just came out showing everyone's favorite lawyer / crime fighter, Charlie Cox, at the MCM Comic-Con, where he talks about not knowing if he'd return as Daredevil in the MCU or not, but if he did, that it would have to be a reimagined character. Was that him saying he actually is or is not coming to the MCU? What did you make of his comments?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, look, surrounding everything else going on with the MCU and particularly Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, it looks like everything, including the kitchen sink, is being thrown into Spider-Man No Way Home, which honestly makes me a little bit nervous. They're throwing so much stuff in, it actually makes me a little bit nervous. Like, we already know, there's construction going on. We already know that we've got Doc Ock coming back, right? We already know that Jamie is coming back as Electro. Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. There was an implied hint that Green Goblin would be returning as well. We're going to talk about more about that when we talk about the Spider-Man poster a little bit later in the show. But one of the things a lot of people have been wondering about is whether or not that we're going to get Charlie Cox, who's of course Daredevil in Netflix's Daredevil, if we could get him coming back as well. A lot of people have been speculating about it. Some people claiming to have inside sources that he is. There's been absolutely no evidence that he is. And Charlie Cox, for the most part, has been denying that he's going to be back in it. Well, as the person who submitted the email suggested, Charlie Cox was just at a Comic-Con festival, MCM Comic-Con festival, where he was asked while on stage, and I watched the video of this, hey, do you think you'll be back? Something along those lines. This is what Charlie Cox said. He said, "Look, a lot of time has passed, so God knows if anything can for us in the future. I really don't know. Obviously, if something were to happen, that would be thrilling. But because enough time has passed, I would imagine that it would have to be kind of a reimagining. Assuming that they choose to use us, it would be an interesting scenario because it would be a reimagining, but with the same foundation. So I don't know what it would look like." And that, of course, comes to us from Charlie Cox. I want to read this one part one more time because I actually think it's pretty significant. So let's look at this again. He said, "Look, I really don't know," he says. "I really don't know if he'll be coming back as Daredevil. Obviously, if something were to happen, that would be thrilling. I would imagine it would have to be some kind of reimagining, assuming that they choose to use us. It would be an interesting scenario." All right, there's a couple things to point out here. First of all, again, Charlie Cox says he doesn't know if him and his Daredevil iteration will be making it through to the MCU. He says he doesn't know. This is something that he has repeated many times. Okay. And then he goes on to say, look, if they do use Daredevil and if they choose to use us, it would obviously need to be some kind of a reimagining, some kind of new iteration of our characters because a lot of time has passed. So it's almost like he's saying, if they did decide ever to use us, the original cast of the Netflix Daredevil series, then it couldn't just be a continuation. It would have to be kind of a reimagining and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So let's get to the core foundational question here. Is Charlie Cox going to appear as Daredevil in the MCU or not? I have a couple of thoughts here. Number one, your starting position should always be to just take what the actor is saying at their word. That should be your starting position. Charlie Cox says, look, I have no idea if I'm ever going to appear in the MCU as Daredevil. Okay. So my personal starting position is, okay, I believe him. Now, of course, there have been situations in the past where actors are asked a question and they lie. But the reality is that's maybe 1 or 2% of the time. The reality is 98% of the time or 99% of the time, the actors are telling the truth. The actors are being honest and the actors are telling the truth and they're just saying what it is. And in this case, Charlie Cox is saying, look, I don't know if I'll ever be in the MCU as Daredevil. I just don't know. Okay, there's that. And for the most part, that's what I kind of believe. I kind of choose to believe Charlie Cox when he says he doesn't know if he's going to be Daredevil. And I have for this entire time. The entire time that we've had him and talking about him, I've just believed that when he says no. And so I've kind of been assuming he's not going to be there. But, and let me put on my little tinfoil hat here for a second, shall I? I will say this, that it is a little strange that Charlie Cox, not knowing if he'll be back to play Daredevil again, would get so specific about, well, if you do see me back again, it might kind of be like this. Again, if something were to happen, that would be thrilling. I would imagine it would have to be kind of a reimagining. Assuming that they choose to use us, it would be an interesting scenario because it would be a reimagining, but with the same foundation. Look, you guys know I'm very level-headed. Charlie Cox says he doesn't think he's going to be, or he doesn't know if he's going to be in Daredevil. I believe him, so I don't think we're going to see him in Spider-Man No Way Home, right? So I don't think we're going to see him in Spider-Man No Way Home. But something about this particular comment strikes me as kind of funny because he seems to be awfully specific about a hypothetical situation. Like, and again, we're just reminding everybody, I got construction probably for the next 15 minutes going on right outside this wall, so I apologize for the sound. But you'd figure if he was being honest, and we should probably still assume he's being honest, but if he were being honest, why wouldn't he just say, I don't know if I'm going to ever be back as Daredevil, and it would be fun if we did. Why not just leave it at that? Because he does say that, right? In the comments, he says, I mean, I simply don't know, but it would be thrilling if we were. Okay, great. Maybe just stop there. But he doesn't stop there. He goes on and starts to be very specific. And he starts saying things, well, I would imagine that if we were ever to come back, I would imagine that it couldn't just be the same thing. It would have to be a bit of a reimagining, but a reimagining that keeps the same foundation. It just seems like he's being kind of specific. Now, look, I am not sitting here saying that I am buying into the idea that the Netflix Marvelverse that we've had, including, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, I'm not sitting here telling you that I now believe they're all coming into the MCU. No, I still think there's a lot of reason to believe they're not. But even I, the biggest skeptic of the idea of these characters, specifically Charlie Cox's Daredevil, coming into the MCU, even I, the skeptic of all this, have to say, I do find Charlie Cox's latest comment a little bit suspect, a little bit fishy, a little bit like, why did he say it like that? Like, he again, could have just said, well, I don't know, but it would be great if we did. Instead, he goes into this very specific description about what would happen if his Daredevil came in. It would be this, reimagine this, yet maintaining the same foundation. It's like, these are all decisions, Charlie, that wouldn't be yours. Is somebody telling you this? Is somebody telling you this? Has the magic genie of the testicle universe come down and spoke to you in your dreams and said, Charlie, with his little mouth. Imagine a big testicle with a mouth on it. Charlie, you are going to be in the MCU. It's going to be a reimagining with the same foundation. Or was that cosmic testicle actually Kevin Feige talking to him? I don't know. Again, I'm the skeptic. I would still say if I had to put $5 on it, we're not going to see Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the MCU. But I would put $5 on it. I'm not sure I would put $100 on it anymore because, again, that comment to me was a little bit suspect and a little bit fishy, and I don't know. We'll have to see. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole thing? Do you think Charlie Cox is going to be in the MCU? Maybe you're going to go one step further than that, and you think Charlie Cox is actually going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm still doubtful about it, but these latest comments make me wonder a little bit. Do they make you? Whatever you guys are thinking, jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts.